has a lot of aspects. What we hear is waste, water, etc. What we are seeing today, but there's biodiversity. There are a lot of things that are ingrained in such a manner. So on one hand, if an organization is giving a lot of employment, is profitable, but is disturbing a part of environment in certain way, then the balance is disrupted, and which is what we are seeing here today. So say for example a campus like UBS, if you are consuming a lot of water from the vicinity and not giving back in some or the other manner, you are a net receiver. You are not a net giver. And this is the equation I think all of the companies and everybody is trying to change today. But the first thing is we are still understanding. We are a long way. I mean, it's only in the last 10, 15 years that we've started understanding that what is the impact that mankind has on environment and vice versa. Companies play a very major role. So what we do is we recycle electronic waste. So we take electronic waste from companies and we recycle it. So we are taking the waste that companies generate to ensure that it does not reach the landfill. One important aspect I would like to touch upon here is, say for example, we are talking about ESG scores, that how is a company responding on these three parameters and how does it interact with social groups and environment at a large scale. We all know about solar panels. I think there was a mention about that, how the entire car park at the UBS campus was solar panel. What do you think? A solar panel manufacturing company is a net positive company? How many of you, I mean, it's a great invention, right? We are all talking about clean energy. How many of you would say that a solar company, solar panel manufacturing company, or a solar installation company is a net positive company? Anyone? Largely, I think we would all agree that, okay, it's a great invention. We are using solar power, we are using clean energy. It gets converted and it is a better alternative to the sources of power that we are using today. But you'll be surprised to know solar panels are going to become the biggest waste generating products that we are going to see. So what is very important is that when companies and when organizations, they function, they understand things in totality. There is life cycle assessment. There are so many studies because, like I said, we are still studying and we are still trying to understand what is the impact we have on environment. So for all you know, I mean, we are talking about electric cars. So tell me if there is a company that is manufacturing electric cars, which is a green product. But in the process, if you are adopting measures or if you are adopting technologies which are highly polluting, your entire purpose is defeated. So I think what is very important is to have this data, have a starting point, and where we try to understand the impact that we are having on the areas that we are operating and all different stakeholders.
Thank you so much, and we move on to research on this one.
Thanks, Karan. I think that's a very good start he has made about ESG per se to understand on the environment side. You as students from business management need to understand that this is just not one of your chapters in your course. It's not a tick box because SEBI is asking you to respond back. You'll be part of a company and they'll tell you to do it. It's a great business opportunity. So I also echo his thoughts. And it's a business that is starting today, or as we speak, it's just starting now. It is one of the largest sunrise sectors you're going to see in your coming days, where you'll find larger amount of corporates having operations in trying to manage environment. So I'll quickly move to what we are doing, and we are therefore one of those companies which does that. We are majority held by institutions, so Shell, Mitsui, Government of UK, State Bank of India, one more private equity, they hold 80% in our company. What we are into is to manage agriculture residue. So the name is Punjab, but it's a long story why it is Punjab, but we are a pan-India company. What we do is to manage this agriculture residue, which is there every year that India generates, and anywhere it is between 750 million tons to 1,500 million tons. And the same story that you hear or you see in those news channels, Punjab burning, Parali, Delhi going black, this happens in Malaysia, this happens in Singapore, this happens in every country which has got agriculture. Farmers have no option but to burn what is left in their fields post-harvesting. And that it may be one of the largest contributors you're seeing today in global warming. What we do today is we have built an ecosystem and a sustainable business model around this. We aggregate biomass from the fields, from the farmers, and it's not an easy task. You've seen challenges with farmers that you encounter at every level. But we have been successfully been able to do that. We engage with farmers, we aggregate this biomass, residue, and bring it to energy form. It could be a replacement for as simple as wood and coal in thermal energy generation. You can process what I think Professor Sriram does. You take your bio residue to manure, you can take it to gas. There are very large projects coming up. There's a government of India scheme supporting compressed biogas, so we are doing that. And then you can take it to liquid fuels. So these are technologies which are available today. There are large second generation ethanol plants coming around biomass, which we're again working on. And the future is hydrogen. So if you again take the same biomass in a commercially sustainable model, you can take it up to hydrogen. These are just elementary parts of it. There are multiple more applications where we are trying to change fossil fuel generation, consumption with biomass and bioenergy. That's victory for us, but largely the message even I would like to give, and second thoughts that Karan has given, is that as students stop treating each of these things that you're seeing, even HR. So somebody who's majoring in marketing today, don't treat HR as one of your allied subjects that you need to study, or the guy who's majoring in HR should only be bothered about those lessons. You are all designed to become CEOs, or at least I'm sure each of you is aspiring to become a CEO. If you want to become a CEO, and that's a late realization in my life, I realized when I came and I probably became slightly successful, that I realized, oops, should have learned HR basics. So when Professor Goswami was speaking about some concepts, I said I had to go back and brush back those ideas in my mind. All of this will come handy. All of you, apart from trying to be CEOs, should also be at some point of time looking to become entrepreneurs. Don't lose out any of those chapters thinking ye kal kaam nahi aayega. Everything will come handy to you. So stop treating them like a chapter in your books. Treat everything as a business opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goswami.
First, I would like to congratulate Universal School of Business Management. Professor Sriram sir has elaborated what they have achieved in all SDGs, 17 SDGs. Sir, I think that after a few years, you will not get any work behind for us to work on that. So basically, all SDGs, whenever we are thinking about the ESG, all you will be agree with me. The entire pillar of this implementation of SDGs concept is people, prosperity, planet, partnership, and peace. Without these 5P, we are not going away, or nothing is coming inside. If you want a peace, you want a sustainable lifestyle. If you want a prosperity, you want a green skills, green jobs, green system all over the from administration to floor. If you want planet to be safe as a livable planet, just think what will happen after 2050 or 2070, that our Prime Minister has declared we will be a carbon neutrality, will come on net zero by 2070.
This COP26 he announced.
COP26 that we have announced. And there is a huge scope as far as climate change is concerned. Intervention are there. As far as industry, we can say enhance supply and manage demand. So how and why? So everything, when it comes to our lifestyle, it comes to sustainable development. अभी वो दिन चले गए, चलता है. जैसे सर ने बुलाया कि यहाँ जलाओ कचरा, कहीं भी जलाओ, will not work. There was one scheme, if I am not wrong, before 10 years, IDBI bank, that bank has initiated to offer carbon credit to the industry. And the industry which is generating minimum carbon, they are promoting them, they give incentive them to reduce carbon emission. So such kind of activity now become a everyday activity for each industry. That is one thing. And one another thing, what industry is looking for basic three things. That is reduction or in consumption of natural resources. That is one thing. Then another thing, responsible consumption of entire resources available for the workers, employee or someone, and that related to water, energy, and food. So, how my employees are going to reduce the footprint of these three things? And there are various models which can help us to reduce the footprints of water, food, and energy. And of course, industry would love to gain much more economic impact on their total turnover to pass it to their employee. So that if I would like to share one story. There was a one guy who went to interview, and there was a surveillance camera fitted in the interview room, and there were 4 5 students, candidates waiting outside, and the one guy who came and he hasn't asked any question, and he has been given only the appointment letter. Then he said, why? Then panelists told him, we have been observed you throughout your entry to the premises. You saw the tap is leaking, you closed down the tap. You saw there is a one plant, वो मुरझा गया था, उसको थोड़ा पानी देना तो उसमें पानी दे दिया. He saw the fans are moving in the rooms, he put on the switches. So the panelists thought that such a kind of nature, who is the person who is having sensitivity about the using natural resources, he can work very well with a good manner along with the company environment and policy. So there are huge aspects. While discussing those aspects, we can discuss. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Kashyap. I think that was a very inspiring story, and all of you need to be careful. When you're going for your interviews, do watch out. You are under observation all the time, okay? Thank you.
So ESG, sustainability, your economy, these words we have been extensively hearing. But I think these are terminology. But I would consider this is how we live. This is a living system what we have. So this is not like a digitalization which has come now. This is kind of I would correlate with a statement that it's a Satyam Shivam Sundaram what we have. So Satyam says being ethical, doing the good things, be transparent. Shivam is fulfilling and looking at the growth of the overall surroundings, and Sundaram is more concerned about the area or your impact kind of region. So is always there. It is more of human nature what we have built on is more of exploiting things. So if we have learned something to use, then we do not innovate and we try to exploit till the time it is overwhelmed by that particular thing. So nature is there to give us a lot of things, but then kind of rebuilding that is also our responsibility. How we are using what nature has given us, we have to give it back. And these things we learn from our home. So how we are up, our upbringing is. And in terms of and school, colleges, academics are the best place. I would definitely, as other my friends, congratulate you that you are at a best place because you are actually living these things. So day by day, these things are imbibed on you into you. That how you can contribute to the society, how you are concerned and sensitive about the environment, and these are learnings which you will carry into the kind of corporate world, and definitely you will excel in that. I would consider myself very fortunate in organizations where I work. Like I was with Ikra Management Consulting, which is Moody's company. So our one of our activity was to rate companies based on several parameters of financial in nature. But then over the period ahead of time, we introduced ESG and kind of rating how companies are performing as far as the sustainability and ESG is concerned, which was ahead of time. Then I, got an opportunity to work with Mott MacDonald, which is, global consulting firm. So any of our town halls, any of our communications used to start with well-being and safety of an employee. We used to have 2 minutes where any individual comes forward and gives their, safety moments. So how important is to take care of our, well-being of our employees, and we changed our purpose of our organization uh, 2 times in 6 months, because we realized we being advisor to the world, it is our responsibility towards the society. So we changed from pure typical purpose of increasing shareholders wealth of a shareholder to social outcome based purpose, which is more meaningful in nature. And being an advisor or a consultant, it gives a lot of responsibility on our shoulder, from the idea of a business. Let's say a customer or client comes to us with an idea, okay, I have, let's say, $100 million to invest, where do I invest? So from there on, our responsibility starts. Second stage is where you actually, in terms of typical engineering kind of, setup, where you are providing engineering solutions. From design stage onwards, it's your responsibility to build those design solutions which are taking care of the society and environment and nature. Then over the period of implementation, I can quote 3, 4 examples in terms of how organizations have exploited.
So we'll come back to that, sir. And
Sure. So predominantly, just to conclude, is from our organization point of view, from tracking, monitoring, and evaluating where an organization is as far as their ESG is concerned, to building a goal and aim for them, and also helping them with the reaching those targets. That's our job.
thank you, Mr. Rama. So, okay, so we've been doing some work for the students' well-being, and we are very conscious about that. We also have a well-being room here where the students can it's a no gadgets room. So the only thing that they take in is themselves and be there. So a lot of work is being done in the space of mental health, well-being, all of that. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Damakari.
Good afternoon. Thanks to UBS management, Ms. Neha Inamdar, and my 3 wives who did internship course. Their love brought me here. So thanks to you. I'm from Mahindra and Mahindra Axelo. Our group chairman has given a commitment by year 2040, we should be carbon neutral. All the plants of Mahindra should be carbon neutral by 2040. On those basis, we have taken a science-based target of scope 1 and scope 2 emission reduction by 75% by year 2033, and also scope 3 emission reduction by 44% by year 2033. We have long-term goals like achieving 5,000 crores by 2026, then happy and enthused employee, that the boys knows. Then there is one more goal to reduce carbon footprint by 10%. What Mahindra is doing, this is not a charity or just noble cause. We are in the business. Business is to make money. So we are making this model. I'll give you one example. We have created Zero. Zero means zero in Spanish. All outdated vehicles are coming. The plant started in Noida 2 years back. And then we are recycling those vehicles. It's like Kurla, Kabadiwala, or it is like Mayapuri, Delhi, where they are doing it in unorganized way, unscientific way. We are doing it in scientific way. So this is a cause for sustainability. One example. You will not believe, now one center now is converted into 5 plants. We have plants at Ahmedabad, Indore, Chennai, so many places, and there are 24 collection centers within a span of 1 year for Zero. As far as CRGO, that is transformer business, we are the market leader with 42% share. And in this business, we are bringing Nippon Steel, and we are the sole processor of Nippon Steel in India. Nobody else cannot process Nippon Steel except us. and Nippon Steel is the quality producer, where ER ratio, energy efficiency ratio, is the highest, and because of which we are producing a product which is very energy efficient product. As you know, 1 unit is generated, then actual user gets 1/10 of the unit. So we are using only Nippon Steel premium product. There's so many things we have been doing, and the company is really committed to sustainability. As far as my role is concerned, I'm chief of business excellence, so I'm driving manufacturing, innovation, then sustainability projects. I'm sustainability champion also. I'm also system coordinator for ISO 14000. All our plants are certified, and we are driving all these projects. I'll give you just, there is shortage of time. I'll just give you 3 projects we have done in last 1 year. The first project is of decarbonizing, where the laminations are annual at 800 degrees centigrade. We brought a furnace from Seco Warwick, that is from US, which is the #1 furnace manufacturer. And all the flue gases at 800 degrees centigrade used to go to the atmosphere. So we did recycling of those flue gases to the burn-off zone, and because of which 3 burners became redundant. As a result, we saved 50 lakh rupees. So sustainability is not for the sustainability, it is for making money. So we saved 50 lakh rupees through this project. Another project is for our Nasik plant. We have the zero waste to landfill. That certification we got from Internet. And the third project is we have a solar roof for 750 kilowatt energy is scattered. Daytime entire energy requirement is scattered through solar roof. So no artificial, no scope to electricity is required.
So thank you so very much for sharing those projects and team work that you are doing. So we have an expert panel from very diverse fields, and the work that we are doing at UBS, we've started this, and I'm sure we can continue to have your expertise. You can stay connected with us and share your expertise going further. I would like to open this question to all of you. So we've been talking about these legislative changes and a lot of societal pressures, that companies have to face. So how do you handle this? The landscape is changing, and there are so many pressures and legislative changes. How do your companies, how have they dealt with it? Yes, Mr. Karan.
I'm actually on the positive side of it because of these legislative changes. I'm very fortunate because when I started my company 10 years back, and I used to say that I'm going to recycle electronic waste for the pagal hai kya? Like, why have you left your high-paying job from KPMG to start this? But the good thing is that, like I said, we have started to understand. Not many would really think that an electronic device or a mobile phone in your pocket can really be hazardous. Can have substances that can harm the environment if not processed in the right manner. You'll be surprised India generates 4 million tons of electronic waste that contains all your lights, wires, cables, tube light, phone, IT equipments, everything. And only 5% is recycled in the right manner. Two most important reasons why it should be recycled is because of the resources that are involved. We have finite amount of resources available in environment. I gave you an example about mining, that how when I used to be at the mines. So what is available in nature is limited. Gold, copper, silver, plastic, cotton, etc. So there is no choice but to start recycling. And the second thing is the way people recycle, it has to be done in a eco-friendly manner. So I think, in fact, you'll be surprised. We are one of the few countries where there is an e-waste tool that makes e-waste recycling mandatory. And this year, an amendment is expected where most of the things that you see around us, somewhere or the other, it will be covered in the e-waste recycling route. So I'm on the positive side of it. With it. I just like to add on one more subject. I had the opportunity to meet Mr. Sumit Agarwal when the car recycling project was taking off, and we were talking about circular economy there. So this is a term that you must have heard a lot, and I was talking with my other co-panelists. We were just having a chat about it. So in an ideal scenario, products should be designed in a manner that there should not be any waste.
Right.
So that is circular economy, a term that I'm sure most of you will hear a lot about, and I think that is going to change a lot of things in the coming years.
And so zero waste is where we are getting to.
Zero waste, I think, is not possible, I feel.
Okay.
But I think at least if you, say for example, I design a mobile phone in a manner that once it becomes obsolete, I can reuse it in some way or the other, or a byproduct that is given out during the production process can be taken back inside. So the loop continues. And in fact, the previous panel spoke so highly about Indian value system. I think we have championed it years before when anybody could think. Everything was zero waste, right? Everything was circular, I would say.
Circular.
So
Circular economy, I'm sure all the students have read about it and heard about it so far in their subjects that they're studying. So it's an important topic for sure, and thank you for sharing that. Would you like to go with this, or can we move to the next question?
So I'm also net positive, so
You can add to that.
We're both on the same side of the business model, just different products. But I think legislative changes is part of a larger business risk, even for us, because even while we are trying to help corporates, so my clients are the larger pharma companies, so Sun Pharma, Cipla, L'Oreal, FMCG companies, Pepsi, etc. They are our clients. We are helping them to sort of get net carbon neutral. We're changing the boilers that they have right now, but that's because of this regulatory change which happened. So the government now has banned incrementally new boilers, and these boilers are required for their main production process. They need steam as part of the process. And the government passed a regulation that you need to now stop using fossil fuel-based boilers. You can't use pet coke, furnace oil. So these are sort of business risks that each corporate and every corporate, being in which part of the industry spectrum that they are, have different exposures to statutory risk. But I think that's a very, very crucial part of your general risk management that you do as a corporate. Even while we both are probably on the positive side of it, we continue to remain exposed to such changes. In our case, government comes out with a policy. I'm getting elementary on the business model, but government comes out with a policy that there is a command area given. Now, if I'm operating in a particular geography, and if I'm looking at biomass from a particular area, tomorrow the government may come in and change the regulation and say if there's a second generation ethanol plant going to come up there, you can't touch anything on biomass. Things like that. So or probably the wastage that you're generating. Now we generate ash. There could be a policy around ash that you can't touch in a particular manner. So statutory risk is fairly high today for all corporates, even for people like us who are probably adding and solving problems. So it's part of your general risk management that you need to keep an eye on the corporate side.
Thank you. Anyone would like to go other side of?
My two friends have spoken very well, and they are what thought they have expressed over here. But we are thinking a little bit different. अगर ये रिसाइकल करो, ये इसका करो, तो मार्केट में पैसे आएंगे कहाँ से, और सैलरी बड़ी बड़ी कहाँ से मिलेगी? India wants to be there a 5 trillion economy. How it will come? मैं बोलूँगा मुझे ये ग्लास ये अगर फूटेगा नहीं तो दूसरा आएगा नहीं, है ना? ये मोबाइल अगर खराब नहीं हो जाएगा तो एप्पल वाले कैसे बनाएंगे और दूसरा मोबाइल नहीं बनाएंगे? But whenever if we think about the case study of India, our population, the large market size, what these two guys have recommended that about circular economy. I tell you my experience. If we take one more minute, World Bank invited me to deliver lecture on SDGs and water governance and economics because my core area is ecological economics. And then we took a city tour and we visited one mall like DMart or more or something like that. And the very, very, very huge mall, that's called a recycled mall. Okay? Recycled mall, जिसमें all India's electronic waste has been repaired and put for the sale. See how circular economy is boosting. The same thing we can implement in our country also, where there is a huge population below poverty line is very high. So they are also having a right to have a TV. They are also having a right to have a good quality smartphone. So why not? So our role as far as our Environmental Sustainability Research Foundation, what we do impact study of government's each policy. That is one thing. Then another thing, we are associate with the various ministries, policymakers, and we are associate with the national and international agencies in which we are contributing our thoughts to make a better policy. Recently, we have drafted one policy about the recycling of water, which is pending with the Legislative Council for approval. That is one thing. So we have also recommended in that 4R, that these two guys will definitely agree with me. Reuse, recycle, refurbish, and repair. Small things we can do all of these, but when the development of economy, national development comes, you have to think very vastly with the parameter of sustainable development goals target. They have given a target 169 target, and each sustainable goal is having huge business potential. You just think it, you will find the business potential. In agricultural, in water sector, in energy sector, a lot of things are there. But we have to need consistency in the policies. So we involve in policy making, we involve in impact studies, we help corporates to make more impact of their ESG policies on employee, so that they can save some good amount of money, they can enjoy. Because if there is a money in the market, then everyone will be खुश. देखिए यार पिछले 2 साल में मार्केट में क्या हलचल हुई, कोविड से कुछ नहीं हुआ, स्टॉक मार्केट ऊपर नीचे करता है. Only two markets are flourishing, that is food market, क्योंकि खाना तो लोग बंद नहीं करते हैं. You go everywhere. If you visited Pune, from street food to 5 star, every hotels are booked and they are doing good business. So hospitality is one. Then agriculture, बहुत कुछ. There new brands of oils are coming, rice, iron brand and something like that, and very costly. But people are buying because health consciousness is again our priority agenda. So health sector is there, and third one is very important, that is water and energy. So these are the things what we are doing through our.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Dharmadvikari wants to add something.
See, here our approach is different. We make problem as a part of solution. Let us take example of this legal and social pressures she was asking. So legal pressure, the government is making a rule that every 10 years out a vehicle should be outdated. So immediately my zero business will grow. That is first thing. Second is, as far as social pressure is concerned, we have this rule that 2% of the profit has to go for CSR. So our rule is within 9 km periphery, we have to do some CSR. So we are building schools. We are spending more than 2 crore rupees every year. And the first choice is education, second is environment, and third is health. So for education, we are building schools. Like 33 lakh rupees school is built. तो अभी उधर का social बच्चा पढ़ रहा है उधर. So they he will be always creating. He will be grateful to our company. So we are creating emotional bank account to all the society people. There is a Sudumbare village where we have adopted that village, and we have started a women community center, welfare community center. At Nasik, at Wadivare, there was a girls dropout rate was very high. So we started a girls college. So that way we are creating emotional bank account to the society, and society never gives any pressure to us. There is always some political pressure, so we know how to handle that.
Yes, Mr. Dharma.
So directly on the business impact, we encountered one issue that one of our business, energy business, was heavily dependent on thermal power plants. Suddenly our global group, became a Paris Convention signatory, and from next year onwards, no business in the thermal power plant. So there is always a counterbalancing which happens. So we were always developing this waste energy and other related skills in house, but then that was not taking accelerated because we were complacent and having good business on the thermal power plants. So I'd say that obviously there are pressures and it has some short-term negative impact, but then obviously there are counter ways to deal with that. And obviously, every organization has a different journey. For them, ESG meaning is different. For our global conglomerate, for them, ESG is different. For let's say, for example, we were working with one small, kind of real estate company, and they were actually building residential house for tobacco manufacture processes. So these were 30,000 employees were dependent on that particular sector. But then it's a journey and you need to support that. It is a time consuming, nothing, it is not an on-off situation. So as I said, it requires a counterbalancing measure. It will require some subvention and support, financial and other skill-wise also.
Definitely. I think if right, and I think, as you rightly said, Mr. Tama, every organization goes through its own journey while handling these societal and the legislative norms. My last question, and we end the panel discussion with this, a very important one. So consumers, they prefer these days. They prefer purpose-driven brands. So, what are your thoughts on this?
So, I think maybe I'm the living example for that. I found the fact that I'm sitting here is because I had zero knowledge about recycling. I had zero knowledge about entrepreneurship. I just quit my job, took the plunge. But I think people could see. Like I mentioned, last week I was at Mahindra Towers and having a conversation with a vertical head, and we were discussing about net zero targets. And I'm very fortunate that post-pandemic there has been a paradigm shift about how people are perceiving. So I think the time has come. There was always a cost associated to do the right thing. Say, for example, you are a chemical manufacturing company. If there was a residue that would come out from your plant, the easiest thing was you to let out in the water. Because if you would process it, there would be a cost involved. But now, if you process it properly, you incur that cost and you are able to showcase it somehow, there is a merit to it. Because, like I said, we are consuming 1.5 times of the world's resources. World population is 7 billion. It is going to become 10 billion. We are in a difficult sphere. So if you are able to communicate at the same time the principles of business apply, there has to be profit. You have to do marketing. You should be able to sell yourself. But in all these things, I really feel that a purpose-driven company, which is able to communicate its purpose, its values, its credibility, and ensure that you're delivering a good product, there's no compromise here. If you're talking something and if you're not delivering it, so we have a recycling plant where you can come and see how things are recycled. So I had to build it up. But I would like to say this. Being appreciated.
Thank you. That's quite motivating for a lot of youngsters. As I'm sure we have some budding entrepreneurs here.
So I think from a customer perspective, clients, depending on which part of the geography you're talking about, and whether your business is B2B or B2C, clients or customers are reacting differently, right? Globally, if you see, Europeans are extremely sensitive to, and I'm talking about end user customers of FMCG products, of textile, etc., extremely sensitive to what sort of carbon footprint that they hold. And therefore, the good answer is capital, right? So if you have a lot of purchasing power, you're strong on liquidity, those markets today are a lot more responsive as end user clients to ESG driven products. And that sort of percolates back in the supply chain into India. So in India, ESG is driven largely because we need capital. You won't get capital if your companies are not ESG compliant. Our end users, you, me, I, really don't look at when we buy a car, if that steel has been very, very carbon neutral in production. We don't look at it. We will slowly get there. There's a segment that's moving to that bracket, is getting little sensitive, but we are still not there. We are still, the retail client is still slightly elastic about that part. It doesn't matter. Slowly it would change. Corporates are changing because either they are pushed by legislatures or it's hard to raise capital without it. That's our main driving force. And why? Because we are part of a larger global supply chain. So today, a small textile manufacturer in Madurai or etc. wants to change his production process to be carbon neutral, not because He's woken up one day and realized Europe is facing 40-degree temperature, but because Hermes or a Marks and Spencer does not want to buy their products unless he is compliant, right? So that's where it's all largely driven today from. But I'm sure with time, I think Indians have always been, if you divide ESG and what the panel said, they've always been contributing back to the environment, just that it never got formalized in our businesses. The Birlas used to do it, the Tatas have done it. So they've done it. I think, so coming back, we tend to get irritated in our answers, but so coming back, I think clients are responsive. India as a market will grow as our purchasing power grows up. We will be a lot more responsive. But on the B2B side, there's a very, very clear shift, again driven by our need for capital and legislatures. Thanks.
Yes, Mr. Mangesh, your thoughts on this? Because he's
Yeah,
talking about capital, and that's exactly what you were saying. We need
because
money.
I always see the money in everything. Because I'm an economist और पैसे के बिना कुछ नहीं होता है. So whenever we think about the brands and all these things, we did one study about one branded company for their apparel. And what we did, we understand the consumer behavioral pattern. So the case study is one guy who is earning 15,000 rupees per month. He went to purchase cotton shirt in the Cotton King. Then he get promotion. His salary 25,000. Then he went to purchase a shirt in Peter England. Then again he get promoted, and his salary was 15,000 to 55,000. Then he went to some other brand. See, consumer behavioral pattern. That is not only for this, but for in food sector also. In food sector also. Suppose I used to eat vada pav on street, 15 रुपए वड़ा पाव, 15 rupees का वड़ा पाव है, और इनके पास बहुत बड़ा ये शॉप है, एकदम क्लीनलीनेस है, एकदम बढ़िया है, 25 rupees वड़ा पाव. I prefer to go to 25 rupees vada pav. Whether the quality or taste is good or bad, I don't know, but I would prefer to go there. So consumer behavioral pattern is very important. And one another thing, again it comes to money. Again it comes to money. Whenever if you want to perform puja at any religious place, what would you do? बहुत सारे दुकान रहते हैं मंदिर के बाहर. आप क्या देखते हैं, इसमें से जो भी कुछ अच्छा है वो भगवान भी कुछ लेने के बाद ही देता है, पहले नहीं देता कुछ. So we have to give back to society. We have to give back to nature through our indigenous practices. Those has been inculcated in our genetics from our several generations. जैसे कि हम घर में करते हैं ना, before, for example, when we are thinking about the recycling of water, there was a natural system. हम लोग कैसे कहते थे, आम्ही वाड्यामध्ये राहायचो. You know वाडा? It's a small place to live, and the waste goes to backside of our house. And there was, we were planted chiku, chainsaw, and
We see these in a lot of villages also.
yeah, it's an indigenous plant.
Kitchen garden.
And kitchen garden. And the role of that kitchen garden was to purify our wastewater, which we have used in our home. So that water automatically gets purified, and groundwater level increases. So these are the small things which we have to adopt. We have forget all these things in flat culture and in modern, all these things. There is one village on Gujarat and Maharashtra border. And just day before yesterday, I received one case study from that our new president, Draupadi Murmu, she is from Adivasi community. But if you think deeply, that village is self-sufficient village. 100% sustainable development they have achieved. And they asked government, we did not want any kind of grants or help from the government. So that is what is the self-sustaining model. So think about this, and of course there is a social entrepreneurship scope is there. Water footprint, how you are going to reduce water footprint, and definitely industry will give you the incentive on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for bringing that money angle to ESG. And it's important, and like we say, ESG is getting us a balance between the social and the capital. So thank you. Over to you, Mr. Dama.
So, consumer perspective, we are fortunate. This large set of customers, future customers, consumers, are more concerned, more aware about sustainability, and definitely they will be driving this tremendous change from value-based, price-sensitive, not concerned about how that is manufactured, what is impact on society, to more responsible consumers. And I think that will be driving a change. Obviously, these commercial angles, like for every product, there has to be a sizable critical mass to be there to make it more competitive. So initially, all sustainable products will, we see more premiumized or having an element of extra cost. But over the period when there is a critical mass available, definitely the shift will be there, and we are seeing that, right? Just one or two small things. One, Ronaldo just put that water bottle or Coke bottle, and what is the impact on share price we have seen. So that shows the responsibility from the investors and consumers and stakeholders. Either it is a pressure or there is a demand that we need these products. We do not need chemical kind of products or which are harmful to the nature. And demand will, that voice will rise. Definitely we'll see that shift.
I think that awareness is rising, and we have already started seeing that shift. Maybe slow in India, but because of all those legislatures and the mandatory, legislations becoming mandatory, I think it is shifting. So over to you, Mr. Dharmadikari, and your expert opinions on this from the Mahindra perspective.
I know you are hungry. It's 1:45. See, basically, I'm a shop floor person, and we are in B2B business. I'll give you a recent example. We had two audits, one by Honey, it's a German company, and the second company was ICIL, AISIL. It's a Japanese company. And I personally filled the questionnaire. There were more than 500 questions. There were hardly any questions on quality. Quality is assumed, it is given. Most of the questions were on environment, sustainability, social accountability, all those questions, whether child labor is there, discrimination hai, ye, wo. So please understand, environment, sustainability, even governance. Many of you may not be knowing, this year we got the best governed company award by Chartered Accountants. So we believe what we believe, we do it. So this even Japanese company, German companies are asking for this. So we don't have any choice.
Thank you so much. I think we'll wrap up this interesting discussion. Thank you for your time and for coming over to our institute, and we hope to see you again. And I'd just like to close with a quote which is very close to my heart, which says that the greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. So it's all of us have this responsibility to save the planet. With that, thank you very much. Thank you to the audience.